Hello, everyone. Happy afternoon, evening, morning, I think, if you're still in morning time here. We're going to talk about Kubefirst. Welcome, welcome. We're going to talk about version 1.11 here. I'm Kelly. I run developer relations for Kubeshop. We are an accelerator focused on open source tools in the Kubernetes and cloud native space. Today, we're obviously talking about Kubefirst. If you're new to Kubefirst, if you're not, you're tuning in from lots of different places. Kubefirst is a fully automated open source application delivery and infrastructure management GitOps platform. I think I said all those in the right.
Nailed it.
Nailed it, right? Got it. It's taken me a while, but with all of the kind of best CNCF cloud native tools in a single command. We'll talk about that single command soon enough. We have co-founders right below me, John, Mr. Deeps down there, and Mr. Edwards down below, Jared. So we'll be talking through what is included in 1.11. We'll do a quick little demo of Kubefirst Local. We'll talk a little bit about what's next in the roadmap. We'll do, what else? I think that's kind of about it. We'll show off the new Ingress controller, all of that good stuff. So if you are tuning in live, or even if you're not, feel free to comment any questions you may have. We'll get them answered either during the live stream or afterwards. You can reach out to us on the Kubefirst Slack workspace, which you can find on kubefirst.io if you're not in there already. So, Jared, take it away.
John, take it away, or Jared, take it away.
Jared, take it away. Can you kick off a Kubefirst Local for us, and then we'll switch back to the slides?
Oh, yep. Sorry, are you sharing my screen? Oh, no, there it is. All right. So first, I'm just going to make sure I have the latest version of Kubefirst. It says run a brew upgrade real quick. And then we have 1.11. We can see there already from the output from the upgrade, but that's okay. So just going to kick off Kubefirst Local. It's going to prompt me here to, got an extra character. I'll get it on the third try. Hit the enter key here. It's going to pop open GitHub to give me an authorization and GitHub token to install Kubefirst. Of course, I need a 2FA, so you're going to have to give me one more second. All right, authorizing GitHub allowed the CLI to kick off a local install. It's going to provision that K3D cluster and bootstrap it with all of the tools on the Kubefirst platform, and then we'll kick it over to John to talk about what that is.
Awesome. Thank you, Jared. Yeah, so we like to set the table with a quick explanation about what Kubefirst is, but we can't very effectively tell that story without first describing Kubernetes itself. Kubefirst is a very Kubernetes-centric project, and Kubernetes is incredible. It's a best-in-class container orchestration engine. It's pretty much become the de facto standard for running any containerized software in the modern day. It handles a whole bunch of complications that arise from microservice architecture, things like load balancing and auto scaling, things like resource pooling, fault tolerance in the bumpy cloud that we live in, observability, portability, being able to pick up complex architecture and move it across clouds or move it to your local host. Are all problems that Kubernetes was designed to solve in a very stateful way. And it does a really, really exceptional job at it. Such a good job that for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, cloud vendors pretty much across the cloud spectrum of all technology types have invested years committing to making sure that their software can run on Kubernetes, be installed easily, be managed easily. And this has produced this CNCF cloud native landscape, where all of their vendors are, all these different vendors are putting their solutions forward as a viable cloud native solution, which basically just means that it runs well on Kubernetes. They produce these cloud native solutions, they put them on the landscape. And as a result of that popularity, as a result of that blossoming ecosystem of cloud native tools that solve all these modern problems for microservice architecture. These are solving problems like, Ingress controllers to allow traffic to enter your Kubernetes cluster, secrets managers so that you can keep your secrets safe, infrastructure as code and automating that infrastructure as code, and GitOps engines and continuous integration pipelines and artifact repositories. These are all technologies that are at the foundation of any modern software shop. And if you were to go to the CNCF landscape, you would find many options for every single one of those disciplines. And as a result, it's very hard for a lot of organizations to adopt Kubernetes, to begin using cloud native. And that's even true for brand new startups where, an application is just running on, some developers' local host run, they're working on it nights and weekends, and they finally get that seed round funding. And now they have to turn that from something that runs well on their laptop to something that's viably reasonable to put forward in a production capacity as a SaaS solution. And there's a whole bunch of problems that need to be solved. And tackling this entire landscape is very difficult for a lot of organizations to do because of all the optionality. So as a result, we have produced Kubefirst. Kubefirst started as a nights and weekends passion project to tame the CNCF landscape. We are building today we have a CLI utility that runs in your terminal, and you can run it against an empty cloud, and it'll produce this fully automated open source ecosystem running exclusively on Kubernetes, where we're taking the best of breed tools across the CNCF landscape, all the tools that have the popularity, that have the good documentation, that are good technologies to found your company upon, and we're packaging them together. The way our architecture works, we're pulling it from a GitOps template repository that we host upstream, and then we hydrate that with information about what cloud you're in and what region you want this management cluster placed in. And then we deliver that resulting GitOps repository, and we give it to you, and that's the GitOps repository that's powering your entire open source cloud native platform. And we deliver it to the cloud in AWS is 30 minutes. We're working on Civo right now, and that's going to be much faster than that. And recently, we've been focusing on a local experience as well. We know that running Kubernetes in a local host environment is in need of some standardization, and we're hoping to provide that standardization because of our architecture being predicated on a GitOps repository that you get to host. Making changes to our opinions of where you start is just a pull request away. So, if you don't particularly like Argo workflows as a cloud native CI workflow engine, fine. You can pull request it off and add Tekton, and you're on your way with your organization running on Kubefirst, but with Tekton instead of Argo workflows. And all of our opinions have that same foundation of us not being in the middle of you and your open source tools. We're just providing you the configuration of all those open source tools in a way that's much more expeditious than trying to tackle the CNCF landscape and building it all from scratch yourself. Recently, there's been a huge acceleration in the spaces of GitOps and also in the space of platform engineering. And we think that we are very well suited to be a good starting point for both of these disciplines. Like I was describing, the GitOps template repository that we host houses the configurations for your initial management cluster and you get to keep your resulting GitOps repository in your own personal GitHub, in your own personal GitLab. But that's really just the starting point. And what you're trying to build on top of the Kubefirst platform is an independent developer platform, which is an up-and-coming discipline. If you reflect on that CNCF landscape zoo of technologies, there's a lot of cognitive load that goes into understanding all of these different cloud native tools that represent your platform, how a secrets manager runs, how an Ingress controller works, how a service mesh works, whatever it might be. Engineering organizations are starting to understand that placing that cognitive load on their development team is misplaced because of the complexity of running a cloud native ecosystem. And really what we should be doing is taking the requirements of your security team, of your compliance requirements, of your infrastructure team, and producing self-service engineering experience so that developers can leverage your platform that you've constructed in a bespoke way specifically for them. That's the pattern that most of the Fortune 500 companies are doing. They're all building these IDPs from scratch, and unfortunately, they spend an enormous amount of money getting basically the same result as what Kubefirst gives you for free, and you'll be done before lunchtime. So, we're really hoping to see. We're building up a community. We have a Slack workspace where we're collecting engineers who are all using the same best of class technologies and using them the same approximate ways. And we ourselves, our engineering team, is in there to provide support, provide help, and help you understand how these great open source tools work. Now, what we're going to talk about today with 1.11 is very focused on our local environment. We're really getting to a point where the local environment is maturing, and creating a local cloud native GitOps platform couldn't be any easier. It's cost free. You have to have a little bit of elbow room on your laptop. We recommend that you run with 5 gigs allocated in memory to Docker runtime so that there's enough space for all of the platform tooling. Plus, we also provide a sample application that shows you how GitOps builds and delivery works, a whole bunch of integrations and stuff. So it's a really cool environment to check out. Certainly, if you're in the business of doing demos, it's a really great ephemeral environment to be able to GitOps bootstrap a fully comprehensive cloud native ecosystem on your local host, and be able to do that in a repeatable way. And our GitOps template that drives the whole thing is forkable. So if you find yourself consistently making the same change over and over again, you can fork our GitOps template repo, make that change in a permanent way, and leverage your version of our upstream GitOps template as part of the provisioning process. In order to install, like you saw Jared running on his terminal just a little bit ago, it's just brew install Kubefirst tools Kubefirst. Kubefirst tools is our tap, and Kubefirst is our package name. And then you just simply run Kubefirst Local. Now, when Jared ran that a second ago, he did not expose a personal access token. So he was required to go through and conduct authorization with GitHub and establish an ephemeral token that's a little bit permissive. If you want to taper that down, we have some docs about how to create your own personal access token, and you can get fine-grained control over the access that you're giving us if you're interested in going through that work of constructing that pad on yourself. But yeah, once you kick off Kubefirst Local in 5 minutes, you'll have this full ecosystem that we're going to describe to you in detail in just a moment. The 1.11 release that we just wrapped up has some really nice features, particularly in regard to security. The local platform adjustments that we've done, we got rid of all of the port forwards in our MVP release 1.10 that we dropped not too many weeks ago. the connectivity to all of the platform tools was all port forward oriented, and port forwards are a little bit flaky and you have to reconnect sometimes. And we didn't like that story. We added a traffic ingress controller in order to establish a more permanent connectivity to those services that run in your local Kubernetes cluster. We added HTTPS communication to all of those local services, excuse me, in order to accommodate HTTPS in a way that your browser trusts. You do have to run one command that requires sudo to basically take that cert that we generate for the secure communication and add it to your trusted store so that your browser will trust the source of that certificate. So that's one thing to know. If you see a certificate warning, you're allowed to just accept the warning. It's a safe connection. It is HTTPS oriented, and you're not required to add that to your cert store. But if you want that warning to go away permanently, you can just run a simple like 3-word command that we document, and you can have HTTPS through and through with no certificate warnings in your browser on any of the tools. It's really nice. We also added local DNS with local.me. Local.me is a DNS that Amazon created that basically always renders a 127.0.0.1 callback loop address. So because it always resolves to that, any services that you have running on your local host are accessible over local.me, and you can actually use these Ingress controllers the same way that you're leveraging them in the cloud. So it produces that really nice experience. We also added user password management. That's not just for Kubefirst Local either. We did that for the cloud as well. That was a little bit of a pain point with our user identity provider solution. Was we created these initial passwords for your platform users, and resetting it was a little bit of a mess. We fixed that in this release. It's nice and easy to do. You just hop in a vault, set your password. Administrators can set the password of anyone, but everybody is allowed to reset their own password in HashiCorp Vault. And lastly, we have this Metaphor application that's a sample application, and we were able to reduce the footprint of it in terms of resource utilization by over 50% in this release. We know these local environments, there's not a lot of elbow room when you're running on your laptop. And we just wanted to get that Metaphor ecosystem to be as slim as possible so that it still can provide you the value that it does, but it does so without overly consuming any of your local resources, so that you have more room for the other stuff that you want to add to the platform. So with that, that's basically what we did with 1.11. Let's switch back over to Jared. Jared, I trust the Kubefirst Local completed at this point.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, we got, yeah.
Yep. Hey, sorry. Yes, it did complete. So I've got that here. The output in the terminal is going to have some details for you if you want them, but also they're available in the console here. So to get started, should we start with Vault?
Yeah, let's start in the GitOps repository, if that's all right. Let's show well, actually, if we can go back to console, let's show that that hot new HTTPS oriented local domain. That's where a lot of the work went, was to make that a reality. It's a quick show, but
yep. So yeah, I've shown the HTTPS communication there and the certificate that we added with MKCert. So it's,
yeah. So let's hop into your new GitOps repository that we put by default into your local, your personal GitHub space.
Yep, and go ahead and add a user here.
Yep, yeah, let's go ahead and get our first infrastructure as code change.
All right. So we have all of our Terraform automated with Atlantis. To add a new user, we have this module here that we can, oh, actually I'm going to do John Dietz for this user. And forgive me while I'm typing. I'm just going to keep making typos if I don't. Just focus for a second.
So here what Jared's doing is he's adjusting. We have like a default. This is how you add your second admin to the platform. The first admin that we produce is technically the bot user. It's like the automation user that runs automated GitOps commits and runs your Atlantis infrastructure as code changes and stuff like that. This is adding a second administrator that's like a human user. So Jared's adding me. This is sort of the onboarding process for adding engineers onto the platform in current state.
Yep. And by opening that pull request, Atlantis should be invoking, or should have invoked. I fear we're not going to get Atlantis to come back on that one for some reason.
Oh no! All right. You still have the terminal running. Is that correct?
I do, and the webhook failed. So don't want to do live debugging. We should just go through and reset KBot's password potentially.
Yeah, sure, that'll work. Let's at least show off the new password reset. So
let me sign out here really quick. So instead of adding a new user, which we'll obviously look into that issue, let me sign in vault token, sign in with the root password or root vault token here. And we're going to grab the initial password for this user, just sign out, and then sign back in with the administrator user that we have on the platform. And by doing so, that now gives us the ability, signed in as ourselves, to go to access and then the user pass backend in Vault, and we can edit our user, and we can update the password here to be whatever we want it to be. I'm just going to make this that for now, and we'll copy that to my clipboard. And if I sign out, we can sign back in with the new password that I've just set. Oh, hopefully I can type it well correctly the first time. So that's one of the ways that we can adjust passwords for the new users we're adding to the platform. And yeah.
Awesome. Would you mind going to the GitOps repository and showing us the registry directory and a comparison of that to the Argo CD variation of that same registry point?
Yeah, let's pull this up on this side, and then we'll open up Argo CD, which is going to require me to grab a password that's in the output here. Go to our Argo CD app of app, then registry. Try and squish this over a little bit, and pull that GitHub directory back up next to it. You can see that, almost see that. There we are. Basically, each of the components that's registered in Argo CD is just one of these files. We have this pattern that we follow for components so that we can add multiple resources if these individual applications require additional configuration, whether that be additional secrets or Ingress or any of those other things that you might need for one of these cloud native tools to be running on your platform.
Right on. So let me ask you this: adding an application, can you describe like just at a high level what that process would look like?
Yeah. So if we were going to add a new application, there's two directories that we would need to make changes in. One is going to be this main registry directory. This is the one that we use that is the main configuration point for all of the tools that are going to be bootstrapped into the cluster. And then if we were to look at development, for example, we can see that this is just an Argo CD application kind, and it's pointing to a new path in this same Git repository. You can see Jared Edwards GitOps there. So if we go into components and look in development, all of the applications that are in this wrapper of directory are what are going to be delivered to the development environment. So this is actually that same pattern, but evolved for one of our in-house applications. So if we look at this metaphor here, this is just following that same convention of pointing at components development metaphor front end. And by looking inside there, we can see that it's just a Helm chart. We can have templates, which are ways to overlay additional resources outside of the default Helm chart. And then that registers this application in Argo CD. And if we were to go look in development, we would see that Metaphor front-end development application that I just went through in the directory structure, and then all of the components of Metaphor front-end.
Right on, right on. That's really well done. While we're here and staring at Metaphor front-end development for a second, this is a really good opportunity to sort of show a little bit about the power of GitOps from a disaster recovery standpoint, from a service level objective standpoint. Like you're constantly in a world where you're trying to keep your application uptime high. That's like the name of the game. In a GitOps oriented discipline, the reason that this application right here, this Metaphor front-end development app exists, is because we have set some desired state in that GitOps repository that says, hey, Kubernetes, we would really like this version of this application to exist in this namespace in this cluster. So Jared, would you mind just manually emulating an accident and deleting this application completely just off the face of the earth and see what happens?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna copy. I cannot get my mouse to cooperate today. That's okay. So we're gonna delete this application here. And if we go back to the development namespace without anything happening, we can see that it already recognized that there was a change. And if we go back here now, the pod's back and running within a few seconds. So almost running, but is in the process of starting up.
Yeah, and that is that's not even so much Kubefirst. That's the power that GitOps brings to your organization, is that you have this desired state that you're establishing in the main branch of your GitOps repository, and Kubernetes and your GitOps engine, in our case Argo CD, is going to work relentlessly to try and make that desired state match the actual state, and any changes that are needed, it's going to apply that to the Kubernetes cluster. So really great for disaster recovery, really simplifies things when it's time. I'm sure if any of you are Kubernetes operators out there, you know that circumstance where that cluster has fallen just into a state of instability and you're ready for a redo. Whenever you're in that condition, that new cluster that you want to have all of the applications that your last cluster had, it's just a matter of mapping that cluster configuration to your registry point that houses all the applications that you want in that cluster. And as soon as you make that mapping, the whole cluster can hydrate with all of your applications. Really great for keeping your nines high. Let's see, where do we want to go from here? I think that's most of what we wanted to cover. Let me check my notes. We covered, as far as IAC goes, Jared, when that didn't work for you, I started a Kubefirst Local myself. Kelly, if we could switch back over to my screen, I can perhaps try and demo the automated infrastructure as code piece.
You got it.
All right. Let me bring,
as a heads up, I'm not sure it's going to work. There's we have an open issue that the team mentioned when that happened. So,
oh, is that true?
Yeah.
Darn it. Okay. I will spare everybody looking at that bug. So in any event, under normal circumstances, and I'm sure by the end of the day, that infrastructure as code story is going to be one where, basically any Terraform change that you apply to, or that you pull request against your main branch is going to have an automatic Terraform plan execute. That plan is executing from Atlantis in your local cluster. It's figuring out what needs to happen in order to make that come to fruition. If you like the plan that it produces, you just type Atlantis apply in the pull request, and it applies that that infrastructure change. If it's successful, it's automatically going to merge and close your pull request. And the end result is this really nice auditable change log of all the pull requests that are in your GitOps repository. It represents every single application configuration change across your organization. It also represents all of your infrastructure as code and configuration as code changes across your organization. So from an auditability standpoint, you really can't do much better than combining your Terraform and your Argo CD into a single repository, wrapping it all in automation. And it produces that really nice, tight, easy to look up change log. everybody wants to know when there's a problem. Well, what's changed recently? And we're finally getting to a point in cloud native where that's an easy thing to answer. So very cool. I think we're done with demos. Do you want to switch? Is my screen up right now, Kelly? I imagine.
Talk about SIVO.
SIVO. Yeah, let's talk SIVO. We have a new release that we've been working on for quite a bit. In collaboration with the SIVO engineering team. They've been fantastic, supporting the things that we require to have the Kubefirst platform running in a SIVO cloud ecosystem. And we are inches away from getting that ready to merge to main. In February, we have a SIVO conference that we're going to be giving a talk on how to run a cloud native platform on the SIVO cloud. The SIVO cloud is really nice if you have a high value on inexpensive Kubernetes clusters that provision very fast. It's a great working environment. The number of resources that you need are very slim. We're really excited about that story, excited to put that forward. We have some platform quality of life improvements that we're going to be chipping away at. Things like, when you need to onboard a new application, it requires you to create a whole bunch of directories. And you can follow the patterns, but it's a little bit of a nuisance. Things of that ilk, we're really trying to focus on and make sure that all of the Kubefirst platform users have a really great experience and frictionless experience on the platform. And then for the remainder of Q1, we're going to be very heavily focused on cluster management. We're building up a new ecosystem where this initial Kubefirst cluster that we're creating, we haven't really talked about it very much this way, but really what we're building is a management cluster. And we're building into that cluster the tooling that's required to be able to provision downstream workload clusters very frictionlessly, dealing with traffic switching and things of that nature. So, and as always, we are listening to our users. So we have a Slack workspace, people that hop in and have questions and helping hands, people that need this or that. That's driving the direction of our product. So please hop in our community, be vocal with what you need, and we're happy to accommodate when we can. And that is all we got.
Woohoo.
All right. 111.
Just one last thing about SIVO Navigate. You guys will be presenting on Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. local time. I'm not sure if it says rooftop, which sounds luxurious in February instead of the cold north where I am. But I'm sure John and Jared will be wearing their K-Ray shirts, so reach out to them, stop them by, and say hi and everything too. But, like I said, if you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, whatever it is, reach out to us on Slack, GitHub issues, wherever you can find us, and we'll be happy to help. With that said, see y'all next time.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.